Hey everyone, welcome back to the Tone Vays YouTube channel for a slightly different show than usual because we have never had this kind of an election. I don't even know what to call it, Jimmy. What do you call it?
I call it Tone and Jimmy talk out of their ass about politics.
That's true, but what do you? But when you refer to the current election clown show,
Uh,
I referred to it this morning as the election clown car going into second gear because I
mm,
think this whole thing is just getting started. How do
mm.
you refer to this mess?
I refer it to as the political mess that is consistent with 2020. I don't know.
Oh yeah.
It could only happen in 2020. Yeah.
All right, certainly 2020. So tell us what the mood is like over in Texas. I don't know. Unfortunately, we can't actually get together with any of our friends to get a real discussion on this. But what are the people in your circles are talking about? Because I just had a family dinner. It was, I'm not going to say which relative's birthday. I already disclosed too much information. But I had a giant family dinner with a lot of people. And I got my own take on this, but what's happening in your circles?
Well, I mean, a lot of my friends are libertarian Bitcoiners and things like that. For them, they find it really suspicious that Pfizer announced the vaccine shortly after they announced that Joe Biden won. There's a lot of really sort of weird ways in which this is happening. It just feels very much like they're pushing a narrative. That's what it seems like. A lot of people on the other side of the spectrum, on the other side that are very happy about Biden seem to be celebrating. Um, yeah, it just there's a cloud of sort of like what's going on. Like there's two different realities that two different groups subscribe to, and they have like very little overlap, and that it's causing a lot of confusion.
Okay, so let's try to analyze some of that confusion. This is not the first time we're doing this type of a fork show. We did this for the Bitcoin fork. We've done it for the Bcash fork, and now we're dealing with a potential government fork where the tensions are very, very high. And lately, I've been very frustrated with the current talking narrative. Where is the evidence? Show me the evidence. Prove to me that there is evidence of election fraud, as if an actual person, a random cat on Twitter is actually relevant. But that's been my biggest annoyance with the current situation. There is a legal process. The Trump administration feels like they can bring a case into the legal process. But I'm not exactly sure what their end goal is. Do they want a full recount? Do they want election ballots thrown out? I'm still not sure, probably because I haven't looked into it, or maybe because it's nobody's business yet, because it hasn't yet been disclosed, because this is why we have a court system. So what is the overall big picture narrative before we dive into some of the smaller parts in that picture?
Yeah, so I'm not entirely clear on what the strategy that the Trump administration has in this regard. I mean, it can be anything from, throwing out a bunch of ballots and then, certifying like a different winner. In American history, there's been a lot of times where you've had sort of contested states and so on. The problem here is that really votes are not easily verifiable. If you have hand ballots, I mean, we talked about this on the election stream. You can count them, right? This is something that Peter Todd was talking about. Is if you have a paper trail, there's always there's at least that, and that's at least auditable. With some of these voting machines that we're finding out have some quote unquote glitches or whatever, I don't know what you do with that. And the thing is these states are supposed to be sovereign, and if they say that these are our electors and the federal government overturns them, there are some serious constitutional issues around that I don't know how they do this. I was reading about the 1960 election. between Nixon and Kennedy. And if you remember, I don't think you or I remember because we weren't alive then, but at least studying it, it was a very, very close election. Now, Kennedy won by like 90 electoral votes, but like most of the difference between the two candidates came down to Illinois and Texas. And Lyndon B. Johnson was Kennedy's VP. And he was from Texas, and that kind of swung Texas. And Illinois in particular was less than 10,000 votes. And one of the quotes that I read from Nixon or one of the things that I read about Nixon regarding that election was that he felt like Texas cheated, and LBJ was known to be a cheater. He would brag about how he could just bring votes into any election that he wanted. And Illinois cheated. And if those two states flipped, then Nixon would have won the presidency in 1960. And one of the evidences of it happening in Chicago was that 5,000 dead people voted for Kennedy in that election. And the margin was less than 10,000 votes between the two candidates. But the reason why Nixon didn't want to pursue that was he was like, okay, if I prove fraud, what do I do then? And that's the question that the Trump administration kind of has to answer now. Even if you prove fraud, what are you going to get out of it? Like, you're not going to force a governor to sign assign a different slate of electors. Like, I mean, I guess the Supreme Court can try, but then it brings up like a whole host of issues, because the whole idea of electors is that the state is supposed to assign electors and not the federal government. That's why we have an electoral college system. So I don't know what you do with this. I'm not sure what the end game for the Trump administration is. Even if you prove fraud, even if everything goes their way, what do you do with that? I don't know.
Well, if everything goes their way and Biden is still president, at the least, there is a chance that the election will be a little more fair next time. Look, there's always something to be gained out of it, even if Trump is not reelected. Hey guys, so on this stream, Jimmy, we may be doing this a little more often. There is also like crypto news, which we may or may not cover. We're going to have a couple of guests join us in a few minutes, which is going to be very, very interesting. So I'm not sure how far we'll get with this before the guests join, but we'll come back to it. So I think there's lots to be gained from it. It's interesting that you mentioned that in that Kennedy election, a bunch of dead people voted, which is one of the claims in this election. And here's the thing. This is one of those, it's these common arguments that we have. It's not just a single thing. First of all, the Trump administration is looking to challenge this in approximately 10 states, at least 8. And in each state, it's actually a little bit different. There is no like this one massive conspiracy. There isn't this one massive conspiracy. Some states did this and some states did something else. And dead people voting is one of the accusations. Lots of video out there. And here's the thing. When I bring up the fact that, well, what about this video of this guy Googling, for dead people, or how about this video of watching in real time how Trump votes are taken away from Trump on live television and being put to Biden on live air. And one of the replies that I get in defense of that is, how do you know the video is real? And the only thing I can say is, can we assume the video is real? What is your argument now? And they're like, well, I can't assume the video is real. And that argument bothers me. If the video is not real, then it would be thrown out of court by a video expert, which neither one of us are. So assuming that the video is not real is insane, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is the phrase that I heard is that like it's a war on truth or something like that. Truth doesn't matter to partisans anymore. It's the video, like it's you get one side that says one thing, and then you find a rebuttal. And like, this is what Twitter arguments amount to these days, is not your original research or anything that you've examined. It's, I found one side that says one thing. Okay, I'm going to find a rebuttal on this other thing. And that's going to be my argument. And instead of actually pursuing truth, there seems to be no respect for the truth or anything. It's just about power. It's sort of like this weird Nietzschean will to power morality that's playing out in the political sphere. I mean, politics has always been kind of Nietzschean, but it's just very depressing and nihilistic. And if I didn't have Bitcoin, I'd be a lot more depressed. Let's just.
Oh yeah, Bitcoin is rising. We will glance at the Bitcoin price. Hey Jimmy, so I want to show you this. So this actually just came out, I think. When was this posted? I think it's just a few hours ago, on November 10th. Sorry, it was posted yesterday. So I didn't know that Rudy Giuliani, the former mayor of New York City, is the lawyer bringing this case for Trump. Like I'm paying attention to this, but not like deeply. And this is an interview with him. So he actually breaks down what exactly they're doing. I'm going to play this at fast speed. And once I get
need to unmute. Yeah.
Once I get my audio straight, I probably should have thought about that first. Nope, not where I want to go. I don't want to dox anything either. Jesus, this is going to end badly.
Yeah, we know you're using Windows.
Yeah. Hold on. There it is. Here's my audio. So if I set my audio, then okay, let me try. Crap. Let me try this.
We know what kind of mics you have. You're muted still. You see the mute button there?
I don't. Where is the mute button? Oh,
lower left. Yeah.
Oh, my bad. That's probably the problem. Okay, so let me now go back to what the original sound was because it may still be working. Okay, here we go. And now it doesn't work. See, when I'm actually live streaming, this shit is always messing me up. But when I'm not live streaming, it never actually works. And this is the major annoyance. Let me try again. Here we go. I'm gonna play it kind of fast. But let's see. So listen, guys.
Attorney General William Barr is urging federal prosecutors to examine allegations of voting irregularities before states certify election results in the coming weeks. This as the president and his legal team continues to make the case for election fraud. Joining me now is the president's personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani, who's leading this election legal fight. So tell me, sir, how are things going? Where do things stand right now?
Well, after filing a lawsuit yesterday in Pennsylvania, which supported by 50 plus witnesses that say that Republicans were excluded from observing over 600,000 questionable ballots in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, and only in those two Democrat corrupt cities, really. The rest of Pennsylvania, no problem. We think we have a good chance, also when you consider the additional allegations of fraud there, to have that vote overturned and not certified. I mean, the margin of victory was only 40,000 after the president had by 700,000. And I think we can show that this was part of a concerted effort on the part of the Democrat Party to do this in 10 different states. Because the same thing they did in Philadelphia, herd the Republicans in corrals, not let them see the ballot. They did it in Pittsburgh, they did it in Detroit, they did it in Milwaukee, they did it in Phoenix, they did it in Las Vegas. They did it in all these places where they have this Democrat machine. And it's impossible that every one of these Democratic leaders woke up the day after the election with the same idea of not allowing Republicans to see the mail ballots and corral them into chutes, even though the law of their state requires that it be observed by a Republican and a Democrat. And forever, we've done that with absentee ballots. Second, we're about to file a lawsuit now in Michigan, in which, again, hundreds of thousands of ballots were cast without any observation. A Democrat whistleblower working for the board in Detroit has come forward and has given evidence of days and days of fraud, preparation for it, backdating of votes, going into the polling place with people, showing them how to vote, taking votes of people that weren't registered, and then actually going to the registrar book and registering at the time. She observed all this. She was disgusted with it. She's a Democrat. She's come forward. She's given us an affidavit, and she's at the heart of the Democratic case that we have, which will be filed in Lansing, Michigan, which will show that well more than the margin of victory are illegal votes. And then a very extraordinary thing, somewhere around 4 or 4:30 in the morning on November 4, right after the election, 100,000 or so ballots showed up at the headquarters. The observers were leaving at that time. So the crooked Democrats in Detroit figured they could count the ballots when the observers weren't around. However, several observers remained behind, and they have given us affidavits. And the affidavits say that these 100,000 ballots that were not properly packaged, they're supposed to be packaged in a big wooden box with an inner box and a seal. They look more like this. Some that had come in earlier in the day, they look somewhat more like in boxes like this. Don't know if you can see that.
Okay, yeah.
And then we're laid out like that, which completely destroys the secrecy of the ballot. And then all of a sudden they began counting them very quickly. And 3 different affiants, people who have sworn under oath, this is one of them, Andrew Cito, said that all of these votes, to the extent that he heard them being called out or he observed them, were for Joseph Biden.
Okay,
and that he saw had no one else on the ballot.
Just to be clear, you're talking about that occurred allegedly in Michigan? Is that where you're saying that?
Yes, I'll read you the affidavit.
No, that's okay. You don't have to read it. I just want to make clear where you were talking about.
I'm talking about Andrew Cito in Michigan, in Detroit, Michigan, at the TCF Center. He was there from 9:30 in the morning. He remained behind when many other people left. At 4:30 in the morning, these shipment of absentee ballots came in. He was told that there were several vehicles outside with out-of-state license plates. They pulled up to the center at 4:30 and they unloaded many boxes of ballots.
Okay.
Tens of thousands of ballots were brought in and placed on 8 long tables.
But Mr. Mayor, could I ask you a question about the process here? Could I ask you? So you filed suit in Pennsylvania regarding the allegations of fraud that you have. Obviously, you say you're going to go to Lansing as far as this situation. I'm kind of curious. What's the timing here in which you expect to get some sort of answer? How it turns out, what kind of remedy are you looking for?
Well, in the case of both Pennsylvania and Michigan, in fact, in every state, this election is guided by the laws of the state legislature. And then it's the state legislature that has to certify the result as honest and fair. We're in a position in both Pennsylvania and Michigan where they can't possibly do that. And now we will move on to Georgia, where the same thing happened, to Wisconsin, to Nevada, where the same thing happened, to Arizona. It's very, very curious that, on Tuesday night, the president was way ahead by 800,000 votes in Pennsylvania, 5% in Michigan, 8% in Wisconsin. And by the next morning, because of things like this, the votes being brought in the middle of the night, the whole thing had changed.
Well, there are people
that happened in all these places. It can't be a coincidence that they decided they would exclude Republican observers in every one of these places at exactly the same time.
Okay, so in Pennsylvania, you have already filed suit regarding these allegations, correct? Do you know when you would get some sort of answer on that issue?
Well, it's up to the court, and of course, it has to be done on an expedited basis. We have to have an opportunity to call the witnesses. We have 50 of them, but their testimony is rather short, and it's all in affidavit form already. We have to make a record, and then hopefully bring it to the Court of Appeals and the Supreme Court. At the same time, we'll be moving ahead in Lansing, Michigan. There's already been a private case filed in Michigan 2 days ago, similar to ours, but not as complete.
And how many states total have you made or plan to make allegations similar to this?
I would say they were 8 to 10. All of them are states in which we have one common allegation and then different things. The common allegation is that when they started counting these new mail-in votes, they excluded Republicans from observing. They put Republicans mostly in corrals that were 20 and 30 feet away and wouldn't allow us to see most, if at all, any of the ballots.
And what kind of remedy?
What kind of things like we have these ballots that are brought in the middle of the night.
Tone, I think we've seen enough of it. I have a pretty good idea of what he's saying and what the strategy seems to be.
Backdated, and we have witnesses for all.
Okay.
So we have numerous instances of fraud, but the common theme is excluding Republicans in 10 different places, and the same system was used. Has to have been a common objective.
Now, if the states come back and say, yes, they were allowed to observe, or even though they were not permitted to observe as you would wish, what do you think the remedy should be? Throwing out every ballot, throwing out the ones involved with that? What would you expect a remedy to be?
The first of all, the states aren't going to come back and say they weren't counted the way we wish. They weren't counted based on the law of the state. Each one of these states.
So how does it resolve itself? If they come out, if they were to say, you're absolutely right, that is what happened, and of course we know there'll be arguments against that, but if they say, yes, you're right, how do you think this resolves itself? What happens?
Well, first of all, the votes can't be certified then. The state legislature can't certify an unlawful vote count.
So the state would not certify it, and then what would happen after that?
What we would ask for is that you deduct in those counties the number of votes that we have proven were unlawfully examined.
Okay.
So it's easiest in Pennsylvania because we've done the arithmetic. We can count 633,000 votes that were submitted without any observation by a neutral observer, and certainly not by a Republican.
Okay. In Detroit, in that case, you want them thrown out. You don't want to recount. You want them thrown out.
Well, there's no reason to recount them. You can no longer tell whether they're valid or not. Once you remove the envelope, you remove the only thing that tells you whether they're valid or not.
Right. That becomes the naked ballot at that point.
The naked ballot. That's why mail-in voting, even by justices of the Supreme Court 10 or 12 years ago, was thought to be a horrible thing to do.
All right, Mr. Mayor, I'm afraid I'm going to have to run, but I appreciate.
All right. So this is where we're leaving it. So there you go. Now here's I'm watching the live chat here. So, so one of the things in the live chat. So I've never heard of Newsmax. It's the first time. I mean, someone sent me this video like an hour ago. I've never heard of Newsmax. And the first thing I see in our live chat, can we have a more neutral, less biased news source than Newsmax? Can someone tell me what was unbiased by Newsmax here? It's a guy asking very good questions to the lawyer for Trump trying to bring this case. Please explain
why it's so biased. Yeah.
Please explain what is so biased about this news source. Anyone. And this is one of the problems, that even if this was Fox, even if this was Russia Today, hell, this could have been North Korea television. I would say, what is biased about this particular news source in this case?
Yeah, I mean, they do lean to the right, and I think that's what they're talking about. But who cares? We're just observing what the Trump strategy is. Like, he's not going to give an interview on CNN. I'm not even sure CNN would have him on. So, I mean, we want the data. It's there. That's all we're getting. But the strategy here seems to be that they want the votes where they didn't get, the poll observers didn't get to actually observe thrown out. That seems like kind of a stretch. I mean, I don't know, like from a legal standpoint of view, I think you should probably ask one of your lawyer friends about it. But my gut feeling is that the only shot they have is to, you know, like get the electoral college to not have a majority for either candidate and then throw it to the House and win it there.
Okay, so here's something you said earlier. When it's electronic, there may not be a paper trail, but there should be a paper trail. And when I voted in this election, there was a paper trail. I didn't hold the paper trail, but it was there because when I put my votes in, there was a printer there, but the printer was not accessible by me. It printed out who I voted for, and it was behind like a see-through glass where I can validate who I voted for on a printed sheet of paper that I cannot remove from the machine. It stays in the machine. Why can't every machine be like that?
That might be the case. I'm not sure. And this is where sort of like the design of the election machines comes into play and what the law says they need to do. Fact of the matter is, like, it's very easy to cheat in these things, and that's the problem that we're getting into, is that there probably were voting irregularities. Were they enough to actually cheat for one side over the other? We don't really know. And there's no easy way to really verify the claims of either side. So it becomes sort of like this political thing, which is actually the game that the Trump administration seems to be playing. It's going to be, okay, well, we think there's enough fraud or irregularities to, put this thing into the House of Representatives or whatever. I don't know if it's enough to actually make it happen, but there's plenty of circumstantial evidence that there's something weird going on. Whether or not it's enough to swing the election the other way, I don't know.
Right. So that's the thing. Now, it's just bad, and that's not the only irregularity. Like, there's one more video, and more of these are coming out because people were recording. Let me see if I can play this real quick. It's shorter than the other one, and I'm gonna play this one on fast speed as well. 175 is probably good. Maybe I won't start at the very beginning either.
Record this. It is my patriotic duty to share this video with you. Have you heard the terms the hammer and scorecard yet? Well, if you haven't, you're going to be hearing a lot more about those terms. And in fact, at the end of this video, you're going to hear those terms spoken by General Flynn's attorney, Sidney Powell herself. What you're about to see is the single most egregious, real-time example of electronic vote fraud maybe ever captured, and it occurred live on CNN. I would ask anyone watching this video to rip it, re-upload it, share it, tweet it, and email it to CNN and to anyone on President Trump's team. The mainstream media and big tech continue to claim there is no evidence of vote or election fraud in this election, and that's because they are co-conspirators in this treason. This is an interview between L. Todd Wood and voter fraud researcher Russell Ramsland. And below this video, I will leave a link to the full interview so you can hear many more examples of electronic vote fraud captured by Russell Ramsland.
This is some amazing video that you're seeing from CNN election night. And I want to go back and show you a little bit about this clip. First, I want to explain what's happening in this clip. What's happening in this clip is this is the live feed from Clarity Elections coming through the Associated Desk or Decision Desk HQ. So this is the live feed. You're seeing the database that Clarity has as it gets updated with votes, okay? And right now, and this little ribbon at the bottom, this is generated by CNN. And they update this a second after they get the update from Clarity up here. So let's just look. Right now, Andy Beshear, who is the guy that upset Matt Bevin, the governor at the time, Andy Beshear has 673,948 votes. That ties to what the ribbon from CNN says. Same thing with Matt Bevin, 662,235. So 662,235. Now, let me take you through, and real quick, I'm going to run it again. You're going to see, if you're watching just this gold, you're going to see a flash update, and then this guy's face fills the page, and then I'm going to show you what you really missed. So here we go. Watch the gold. The update's coming. Boom, there it updates, and now here's this guy. Now let me show you what you missed. We're going to drag this back frame by frame. And so here we are before the update, and now I'm going to start walking you forward. Watch the gold. Here comes the update from Clarity. Boom, there it is. So now the update, Andy Bashir has 674,508 votes. And look down below, Andy Bashir had 673,948. They haven't had a chance to update the ribbon because this is in split seconds we're looking at. So Andy Bashir has just gained 560 votes. That makes sense. That's what happens as more votes come in, right? Let's look at Matt Bevin. He now has 661, 675. Let's look down below. He did have 662, 235. At the exact same second that Andy Bashir has gone up 560 votes, Matt Bevin has gone down 560 votes. This is vote switching in the computer. And by the way, between the 560 gain and 560 loss, you have just seen 25% of the loss amount of this race happen in front of your very eyes. We just heard from John Solomon that the FBI indeed is being diligent, is involved, and we all hope.
All right. So how does that get explained away other than, I don't know if this video was real or fake?
Well, it could be like a fat finger or something like that. I mean, there's multiple explanations for that. It could be that the feed was corrupt, or they added 560 earlier that they shouldn't have, and they subtracted it. I don't know. Hard to say. That's obviously a bug. Whether or not it's a nefarious bug or an incompetency bug, we don't know. That's the real trick to any bug is, if it ends up benefiting somebody, did they plan it that way, or or was it just like coincidence or some sort of, incompetence on the back end somewhere? Generally, yeah, there's a lot at stake, so there's a lot of different motives that might explain it, but you can't really know without additional evidence one way or the other.
Right, I agree, and which is why it's so important to get this ball rolling to find out, because I want to know. I want to know if this was a legitimate bug. I want to know if this was a fat finger. I want to know if this was a malicious fat finger, because that is not the only instance of it. Here's another example, this one in the Pennsylvania. And again, someone is recording the TV screen. And yes, I understand that these videos could be fake. I understand that. We're assuming that the video is not fake. And if the video is not fake, here is another example of Trump losing 19,958 votes and Biden gaining 19,958 votes. And this was in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, I believe. And there were other, I don't have the tweet handy for other jurisdictions for it, but in Michigan, they came out saying that it was the same exact problem. This is the problem that actually bothers me a lot more than mail-in ballots being brought in on, out-of-state Ferraris to be counted. This is a technological problem that should not happen. This is my biggest concern. And then there are, again, speculations and rumors that this was software created by the CIA to meddle in other countries' elections, and it got deployed here. And that's a very, very insane accusation. And if that's proven true, the US is in trouble globally, I believe. Why would anyone trust the US, assuming they currently even still are? So, there was also, I don't know if you saw the other videos. Hold on, I don't have that article handy, but there was another video where they said in Michigan, this kind of software glitch definitely happened as well. And the same exact software was used in 47 different counties. And therefore, that's a high probability a similar glitch happened all over Michigan, not to mention other states using the same software. So these are the kinds of issues. Now, did this happen in every single state across the country? Probably not. But there is enough evidence of this for this to be investigated. And I don't understand how that is debatable, that this is something that should not be investigated.
Yeah, I think people just want some, like, this is the thing when you're partisan, is that when you're winning, you want nothing to happen afterwards. If you're losing, you want everything to happen. And that's, I mean, like that was the case, back in 2000 with Bush versus Gore. They just wanted to keep it going. Let's investigate absolutely everything. And, people were on opposite sides back then, obviously. So it's a normal part of political manipulations and argument is you're going to argue one thing when it's favorable to your side. You're going to argue the exact opposite when it's not, and that's happening here on both sides. So that's not a surprise to me. What really should change out of this is we really need to be, have a better system for accountability on this sort of thing. And there should be clear rules on which votes get thrown out if you are found liable of something, and mitigations and things like that.
All right. So, of course, our live chat is full of the following comments. Trump lost. Enough with the fake fraud claims. Trump and his supporters will never accept reality, and no matter how transparent and legit the elections, they were always going to cry fraud. Tone wants to be part of speaking a civil war unrest, no proof. Such BS. I'm like reading them like consecutively, Jimmy. This is like the majority. It's like, it feels like the majority of our audience think that these claims are not even worth looking into.
I think that's silly, and that's very partisan. It's, my guy is winning. Why don't you accept that my guy is winning? I don't know. To me, this is like fourth quarter, 5 seconds left in the game. There's still a little bit to go. If you could end it without that last play, that would obviously be better. And if you have the ball, you have the right to run out the clock. You don't have the ball, so sorry. It's the Trump campaign's right to go file lawsuits if they want, and they are, and that's what they're doing. They don't have to concede, and it's perfectly within their rights to go do whatever it is that they're doing. So if you're complaining and saying, "Oh, they're just being sore losers," I mean, they might be. You're right, but that's their right. They get to, throw a Hail Mary in the last 5 seconds. And if you don't like it, sorry, tough. I mean, what it says to me is that what you're really afraid of is actually losing on that Hail Mary, which might happen. Probably not, but it's a puncher's chance.
Yeah, I wanna read something because this was so so on point. Okay, so and then I replied, all right, I don't want to share like my private DMs, so let me hold on. How do I do this properly? Oh, here it is, found it. Maybe I can grab the image. Okay, because I don't want to excellent. Okay, so here we go. So the big question is, Tone, why do you care so much? Because as Jimmy likes to say on the show, why even bother voting? It's all the same shit. So I was in one of these debates with a person yesterday, someone from the crypto space. I'm not gonna, disclose any names unless the person told me to, and I didn't even ask, so I'm not gonna disclose the name. I'm just gonna show my side of 3 messages that I sent. And there is a reason for this madness. So let me see here. Biden winning. I'm just gonna read this, even though I don't really have an audio podcast anymore. Biden winning probably gets me out of the U.S. within a few years. So yes, I'm a bit invested here. If I feel he won unjustly, which means if I feel that Biden cheated, it simply speeds up the process of me getting the hell out. However, I can also make the argument that since he did not win honestly, then the majority of the country is not really Democrat socialist, and maybe it's not time to leave the country yet. Right? So it does matter. It really does matter. And
all right, so here's the argument that I would give back. So I think I can make this argument either way. So if you're a Biden supporter, I think I can make the case that Trump winning might be the best thing for you. And if you're a Trump supporter, I think having Biden win might be the best thing for you. And this relies on the whole concept of low time preference. So whoever wins right now, what are you getting? Well, you're getting a split Congress. You have the Democrats that control the House, and you have the Republicans that control the Senate. No matter who the president is, that's just reality. You're going to have a split House. So whatever is on your agenda, you're going to have to get the other party to at least agree to whatever it is. Now, there are things that the executive can do unilaterally without Congress, but anything that's your sort of signature, legislation or whatever it is that you're going to tout to prosperity, you're not going to be able to get done. And you're going to essentially be, presiding over a divided House. And that's not generally good. And what's furthermore, 2 years in, what do you think is going to happen in the midterms? Well, if you're a Biden supporter, well, most likely there's going to be a ton of pissed off Republicans, and you are going to probably get creamed in the midterms. House will probably flip to the Republicans, and you are going to have have the last 2 years be
well, Jimmy, there's a lot of pissed off. There's a lot of pissed off Democrats too right now. Because
no. But if Biden won, now if it's the other way, if Trump wins, then you get the exact opposite happening. You have a bunch of pissed off Democrats, and guess what? You're probably going to gain seats in the Senate and have both houses of Congress. Trump serves out the last 2 years as a lame duck, and now you're set up really well to actually get stuff done in 4 years' time when your candidate will likely win and have both houses of Congress. So either way, if you're looking towards the future, 4 years from now, you're actually in a better position if the opposite side wins, because you'll likely be able to pass a lot more things after everything is said and done.
All right, that's that's one way of looking at it. And we're going to talk about Bitcoin price in a second, but the other, so this is the one I showed. And a few hours later, I was in an email discussion with a friend of mine, someone I haven't spoken to in a long time. And this is coming from a female. And it was so funny when I got this message from her an hour after I sent that to someone in a different debate, and they're completely unrelated to each other, where she writes, I wish we had a clean election so I know the percent of commies I'm living with. People voted for Trump, people voted for Biden, people voted orange man bad, throw in a whole lot of fraud. I don't know my countrymen by this election. So it's the same viewpoint. I want an honest election, because if the majority of the country did actually vote for Biden, I find that to be a little bit concerning, because that means that the country is actually going in that direction. But if they had to cheat to such egregious extent, then maybe the country is not moving in that direction. And we should fight back while we can for the next 2 months to try and get an honest count.
Well, so, I mean, I think it's good for that reason. Is if you want an honest election in 2022 and 2024, or at least a more honest election than this time, then this is the best thing that can happen. Is there's a lot of hubbub over it. Legislatures all like pass different laws about what to do in case of voter fraud or whatever, or if you don't obey these rules, then we're going to throw out these, like there has to be some teeth behind this stuff. And making sure that stuff gets settled would actually help things out. But like I said, if Trump loses here, I think it's actually sets him up really well for 2024, because you get both houses of Congress, a really pissed off Republican base, and like a neutered Joe Biden, Kamala Harris. I mean, like you come into your second term non-consecutive with both houses of Congress, that's way more effective than the last two presidents that had second terms where they had divided houses and they couldn't get anything done.
So when you say it sets up Trump good for 2024, I agree with you, but Trump is not exactly, in his 30s. And setting Trump up, politically is one thing. Reality is another thing. Ron Paul was very well set up for 2016, but he did not run. It was over, and mostly to the male audience watching us, which is the majority of our audience, sometimes you only get one chance in certain situations. And no matter how well you set up that situation for the next time, most of the time, you only had one shot. And that's the reality of the situation.
I don't know. I mean, like, it might not be for Trump specifically, but like, here's the thing. If Trump's not there, it's not going to be, Mike Pence that gets it. It's going to be somebody that's right of Trump, at least in sort of the issues that he was championing. And like, the thing is, like, you marginalize a particular group of people, they're going to come back and be very, very loud about it. That's just what happens in a democracy. You lose and then you come back stronger because the disaffected are pissed off and have all the motivation in the world. So I mean, the fact that Newsmax exists is like one of the consequences of this. There's a bunch of Republican voters that aren't satisfied with the mainstream media and even Fox News. And that's why you have, Newsmax and One America Network. And if Trump loses, I fully expect him to have a news network that he's going to found on his own, something like that. Like, this is what happens, right? Like, there's a reason why you had the Tea Party right after Obama was elected. There's a reason why you had like all sorts of, Occupy Wall Street, I think back when, I guess that was during the Bush years or whatever. There's a tendency for.
Wasn't that Obama? No.
I don't remember, but either way, you're going to have disaffected people that organize, and if you think you're going to win this thing forever, you are sadly mistaken. That's not how it works in democracy. Right now, the pendulum's in the middle, trying to decide which way it should swing. It will swing back the other way, and it will swing back in 2024, almost for certain. So, yeah, that's just reality. And if you have that perspective, I don't think this is quite as big a deal as it might otherwise be.
All right. Wow. I really hope our guests come back because they had some very interesting. Let me text Eryka. Hey, you guys gonna jump on? Yeah, because I don't want to talk about those issues without them present, because this conversation is about to get really interesting in a hurry. Well, I'm almost out of all of my conspiracy theories. There was also that article okay, so let's talk about one other thing. Oh man, what was that? I have to go to my recently closed tabs, I guess. Crap. Okay. History. It was some website called Red Elephant. And then this whole debate over Benford law.
Yeah, that. So if you don't, let me explain Benford's law real quick.
Let me find the article. Give me 1 second, Jimmy. Damn, I can swear I just closed it like the other day.
Well, I was a math major, so at least I could talk about Benford's law a little bit. So
that's embarrassing because I have 2 of those degrees. But go ahead, Jimmy.
All right. So Benford's law is slightly unintuitive. So if I told you to pick a random, if you have sort of like a power law distribution, that's that goes across logarithmic scales, and I told you to choose a random number on a logarithmic basis. Turns out that the leading digit of that random number is more likely to be 1 than any other digit. And in fact, 9 is the least common. So for example, if you do this for constants in physics, it's much more likely to start with a 1 than a 9 for all the constants in physics, something like that. This is the Benford's law. So you could do that for different bases, and this is because if it has a power law distribution, then each order of magnitude, there's you spend more time with the leading digit on a logarithmic basis than you do like a 9 or something like that. So that's what this is testing is, okay, let's look at the number of votes, and it should do a Benford's law distribution. And they did this with every candidate, and you can do that because every precinct is reporting like on a power law distribution basis or whatever. And what you get with something like Milwaukee, if you scroll up a little bit.
Yep, that's Milwaukee right about.
Oh,
right.
yeah. So what you get is kind of a really odd looking one. Like you can see that Trump, Blankenship, Joe Jorgensen, Carroll, and write-ins look very similar, right? Like they follow the graph fairly straightforwardly. But if you look at Biden, it doesn't actually fit. Now, this is base 10. The interesting thing about Benford's law is that it holds for any other base. So you could have octal or hexadecimal or any other. Binary would always lead with a 1, for example, so that's not relevant. But every other number, every other one, we can kind of look at and test. And you could do this with other ones, and it shows up each time. And it's always, or at least in these particular examples, it always seems to be Biden that's kind of off. Now that's it. So there is a discrepancy. Does it prove fraud? No. Does there need to be an explanation for this? Yeah, there needs to be some explanation. Is it that they cheated? Possibly, but it's not conclusive of anything. It just says that the numbers are not like in a random distribution like you would expect. Now,
right.
there are stats professors on Twitter that are arguing back and forth about this. The one thing I will say is that this is a real thing, and it does get used in sort of like forensics. It gets brought up in lawsuits, so it's not like something that doesn't ever get used. But this clearly is an anomaly. How it's an anomaly, I don't know. But we need an explanation for this instead of, oh, this doesn't matter, which is what a lot of people on Twitter are doing.
Right, which is insane. And that's all we're saying. We're saying is there is enough statistical evidence or enough statistical anomalies here that require a little more in-depth into the underlying data in order to explain away the statistical anomaly. And not just say, oh, that's because because Trump told every Republican not to mail in a vote, and Biden told everyone to mail in a vote because COVID, and everyone listened to their respective masters. That's basic. That's been the leading reason.
Well, that wouldn't explain this particular one, because it's about the number of votes, and the numbers are essentially random. So, and there was one stats professor that I read that was saying, well, the reason why Joe looks like this is because a lot of towns in Pennsylvania have like this 1,000 cutoff and things. But then, like, that's base 10. You can do the same thing in base 6, and I've actually done this with base 6 and base 8 and base 13 and whatever. The graphs always look anomalous for Biden, but not for Trump or any of the other candidates. Which is, you need an explanation for this. Like, I don't know why this is. I'm just saying this is there, and like the anomaly always seems to be Biden in this case. You need an explanation, and the explanations that I've seen aren't good enough. Now, you can say that Benford's law hasn't really been I mean, like it might not apply here for this, and this reason, then explain to me why it's always Biden that's anomalous. Like that, even like if it doesn't apply, then it should be anomalous for Donald Trump an equal amount of time, or at least roughly the same amount of time, or another candidate the same amount of time. But it's not. It's always Biden. So something is weird. Something is really weird. Now, I mean, Benford's law has been abused in different contexts, so I don't want to go overboard here and saying, okay, well, this proves fraud or this proves that these people cheated. It just needs an explanation, and that's
right, but
that's really what anyone is saying.
Right, I agree, and I'm looking at like some of the other parts in this article, and something like this, I would also love to see an explanation or at least proof, because in last year's election, in the same county 4 years ago, Trump doubled the number of votes for Hillary, and this year Trump came up 50% short of the number of votes for Biden.
I don't know. Maybe he insulted the mayor there. I don't know. Like why? Like that's a very drastic flip. It's hard to imagine anyone.
Right. And 4 years later,
without the surrounding towns doing the same thing.
Well, I don't know about the surrounding towns, but we're just looking at one county 4 years later, and it looks like the number of votes is similar. We're talking 8,500 to 4,500 versus 7.8 and 4.5. So the number of votes is approximately the same, and but yet there was a 50% flip in the opposite direction. Like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like there could be perfectly reasonable explanations for this, right? Like you could have like a cult move there, and or I mean, there could be a population of 4,000. I don't know, Jehovah's Witnesses or something that were told to vote one way versus the other. I don't know. There are explanations that would fit, but you still kind of need an explanation, don't you? Like that just looks kind of like a fat finger error. Like you reverse the DNR there. That's what it looks like to me.
Right, and that's what all this article is pointing out. Now, I understand people hate the source of this article, but here's one more: 2020 absentee mail-in voting source, New York Times. Right? They didn't make up these numbers. I mean, the New York Times might have made up the numbers, but they didn't make up the numbers. And it's just looking at absentee mail-in voting advantage percent to Biden. And is there a reason that Pennsylvania would be so different than Florida?
Or Michigan. I mean, they're neighboring states, or they're not neighboring states. I think Michigan and Ohio certainly are, and Ohio and Pennsylvania are. But like, look at the states that are next to it. I don't know. Like, it's possible that that like they had different laws around it or something like that. But it I mean, you need an explanation, and like, just because you provide an explanation doesn't mean that that's sufficient either. Like, you can make a just so story, but that doesn't mean that's actually true. We like, if you're searching for an honest election, you have to seek the truth no matter where it may lead. And right now, what we're seeing is this might not be a very honest election, and it might not have been for a very long time. Who knows? And we're just sort of seeing it. In which case, we're not really living in a democracy, are we? But I don't know.
And here's another thing that people look. It's not easy putting together this kind of article. It's not, especially a few days after the election with limited information. And the critics of the article want something like this to be a 6-month-long academic paper written in a matter of days. Okay. And the other thing that it was very picked on is when they initially posted the article, they had these two graphs, but one of the graphs had a bad scale. It was from 0 to 15 instead of scales being identical. And I have ran into this problem in Excel myself, because it's clearly an Excel graph. And sometimes you have the same exact data on 2 different Excel spreadsheets, and your scales are completely off. And yes, when the article was published, someone probably should have been a little more careful to make sure that the scales look exactly the same, because it exaggerated this graph versus this graph. But even, and that was the biggest thing. It's like, oh my God, they're cheating. They're purposely showing you a bad graph. I'm not even talking about what this graph represents. We're just talking about the graph, the way it looks. And people jumped down on the fact that because one scale was off, that somehow the entire article is a fraud. So they adjusted the scale to make them even, something they should have done from the start. They look insanely different still. But apparently the fact that the original article came up with one bad scale, which was probably by accident, but bad editing probably left it there on purpose to make it look a little more exaggerated. But the data is the data.
Yeah, and this is sort of like a tactic that I really don't enjoy about political discourse right now, which is that you attack the messenger and you attack sort of like the smallest error and discredit the entire article based on the smallest error. And that's not really searching for the truth, guys. That's just being partisan. And I don't find that very informative or interesting. It's again, Nietzschean will to power ethics of, well, you know, I can discredit you based on this, and therefore I get to impose my will upon you. And that's not a very good way to live, honestly. So yeah, that seems to be sort of like the morality du jour right now, and it's rather sad.
Yeah, and there was also that video here that I was looking for earlier about what happened in Michigan. And they also have proof that vote counts in the machine were flipped, in the machines, plural, were flipped from Biden to Trump. And all we want is clarity. Look, I want a fair election. Like the messages say, I want to know which direction this country is going to. And there are 3 directions to go to. Well, actually 4. A more independent, a full Republican, a full Democrat, or it doesn't matter, we just cheat and no one cares. That's probably the scariest direction. The scariest direction is that cheating did take place, fraud did take place, and nothing is actually going to be done about it. That is the scariest direction, and here is why. The reason for that is, Jimmy, you've heard me say many, many times, I do not think the US dollar is going to go into hyperinflation. And for the first time, I am saying that it can. And the only reason why it can is because the world and US citizens will start to lose confidence in the US political system, in that it's fair. Granted, this has been happening for a while, but it's being accelerated. Unless you want to have a quick comment, we have our guest, and we can pick up this conversation then after. Eryka, welcome back.
Hey guys.
To the show.
Hi. Sorry, walking to the car. How are you guys today? How's the stream?
Oh, stream is, well, it depends. Depends which people in the live chat you ask, to be honest with you.
What are they saying?
Oh, we have a lot of Biden supporters watching us.
Oh, wow. I feel like it was completely stacked the other day. It was like,
no, I mean, maybe
I don't know.
Maybe they're the ones being most vocal. Hey, so we need to relive a little bit of our election day stream. You were ready to go to a party, celebrate a Trump victory. I'm sure you guys were very, very happy in other way from the party, and probably didn't notice all of the how the pendulum swung around 2-3 in the morning. Not sure if you guys were still partying as it was happening. So I would love to hear that take. Also, we had another guest on our stream, your friend. Are we calling him by name?
No, I would say don't do it, because you're going to be more likely to get banned. Just call him chairman of the Proud Boys.
Okay, does that matter?
Yeah,
Apparently.
honestly it does. I actually posted a picture of him on, not of him actually. I posted a picture of me wearing his ring on my Instagram, and Instagram censored the picture. And he's told me before that his mom posted a picture with the both of them, put his name, like my son, whatever. and that picture got taken down. And it was his mom, like no political affiliation. So I would just say Chairman of the Proud Boys is probably better. They can Google him.
Chairman of the Proud Boys had a more eventful night that evening after getting off our live stream, and that's what we're going to talk about as well. So Chairman, you want to say hi real quick? Is he in the car?
No, he's not yet. He's actually coming out, but we're going to join on separate streams.
Okay, cool. So we're gonna start with you then. Tell us about how that party was ending.
Yeah, I mean, it actually ended pretty fun. Everybody was super secure, and they were like, "Yeah, Trump's gonna win," because he won so many states already. And then, I mean, I left before the 2:30 pause. Roger was there, and he had everybody actually download this app, which I'm not going to tell you on this stream because I don't.
Sorry, who was there?
Roger Stone. So Roger Stone.
Okay, Roger Stone. Okay, got it. Okay.
Yeah, there's a documentary if you haven't seen it. It's called "Get Me, Roger Stone." It's on Netflix. You guys should watch it. They say that he is the reason why Trump won, and he's been really a political pundit for a while. But what I think is interesting about him is that he's just helped a lot of different movements that are on the fringe. I mean, he was on Alex Jones's show, if you guys know who Alex Jones is. But really what I want to talk about is, do you guys know about this whole blockchain voting patent that happened with USPS?
Yeah, we know about it.
We covered it at one point. Yeah,
we covered it, and we also know that it's not a blockchain. But sure, go on.
Of course, yeah, it's a database, but they call it a blockchain to make it fancy and get the backing of Bitcoin. But to me, that's one of the only reasons why I'm like, all right, maybe we have a chance, because I personally think that the evidence is overwhelming that these people stole the election. Trump actually in mid-October, he made it a federal offense to tamper with voting material stuff. So that's why you're seeing all of these states kind of turn back over to red. There's an article about it, I think in the Daily Mail, but we'll see what happens. Enrique is coming right now.
All right. Well, so you guys were there until 2:30, and then what happened?
I think everybody was drunk. I don't really remember, but everybody was super happy. I'm on the stream. Say hi.
Hey, man.
Hi, Chairman.
I'm once again being informed not to call you by your name, which is insane to me, because I'm sorry, man. It's hard for me to say.
He can't hear you.
Oh, he can't hear me. All right. Well, you can hear me. Yes. So it's hard for me to believe. First of all, I'm sorry. I wasn't familiar with the Proud Boys on election day. I have not Googled the organization or what it does, other than what. Can we just call him by his initials? So it's what?
T. E.T.
All right, there you go. E.T.
E.T. phone home. Yeah.
So E.T. described it, and I'm like, oh, okay, that sounds interesting, but I haven't gotten the chance to look more into it. So it's insane to me why a person that was incredibly nice and awesome on our stream is somehow can get my channel censored by mentioning his name. Well, this is like my brain is having a problem comprehending that.
I have to say, the reason why is because, the thing about the right versus the left is that the right is always on the defense. Everything we do is a defensive move, right? And then we also don't really fight. You see 70 million Americans they don't like the election results, but not one building is burned down. And I think it's interesting to see because we depend on the police to defend us and to be kind of our offensive arm. And I feel like the Proud Boys is the only offensive arm that we have. So it's bad, especially when you see someone like Enrique as the head of it, and they say he's a white supremacist group. It just doesn't mix with the messaging that they're trying to put out.
All right. Well, I'm going to be calling you by your initials, man. So E.T., you don't look very white to me as the leader of a white supremacist group. No offense.
I mean, I might be. Maybe I'm just really bad at it. Maybe I'm just really bad at being this white supreme that they make me out to be. As a matter of fact, we just went. We're in Central Florida right now. We just went to a gun shop, and they recognized me, and they're like, "Wait, aren't you the white supremacist guy?" I mean, they said it as a joke, but there is a dangerous rhetoric when you say things like that, and there is consequences to it on both sides, where you demonize people so much for their thoughts, you can't even like you just said, you can't even mention my name on a stream without somebody. And I saw a couple tweets after I got off your stream last time on a couple of people saying, "Oh, how could you platform this guy or whatever?" And if I did have like these radical views on like certain isms like racism or fascism or communism, then I'd understand. I'd be like, well, you know what? Maybe I'm spicy, but I've never said anything that you would consider crazy. I mean, the most radical view that I hold is that I believe all gun laws are unconstitutional.
Hey man, any chance I can get you to like stay in one spot instead of walking around, because your audio and video are breaking up a little bit. Awesome, thanks, man. So look, I don't want to keep you. I know you guys are have a long drive to go, and I want to talk about your eventful night that Eryka texted me about a little bit later. Because after you got off the stream, you guys went out. And there was an incident on tape where multiple people got stabbed, including yourself.
Yes. So it was shortly after your stream. So we spoke right before, you know, the ballots started coming in and these states were closing. So we were at the bar. We hung out for a little bit. And DC has a strict COVID restrictions, and we decided to. When they closed up at about midnight. We decided to go home, and we're walking to our cars, and 3 members of BLM that just left BLM Plaza, 2 men and a woman, pass by us, say something under their breath. We didn't say anything back to them. We let them walk, no issue. But they proceeded to cross the street, and they started attacking an old man without even telling him a word. Like, the old man was just walking and he was being attacked, so we ran across the street, broke up that fight, and then I don't know where she pulled it out of, but she pulled out of her back pocket a bottle of Hennessy. And she used that bottle of Hennessy first as a weapon. She swung it at Bevel and Beatty. I don't know if you know who that is. Bevel and Beatty's head, and she missed. And then that's when a small scuffle ensued, what we thought was a small scuffle, for about 15 seconds, and then it stopped. And then I asked everybody if they were okay, and they said yes. And then 5 seconds after me saying that, people started saying, "Hey, I think they put a knife through me. I think I was stabbed." And Bevelyn was stabbed 3 times in the back. She has a collapsed lung, lacerated kidney. One of my guys got stabbed in the neck, and another one got stabbed in the ear. The gentleman that they were attacking was stabbed twice. And so luckily we were close to the car. So somebody went to go get the car. We were able to transport 2 people to the hospital before the ambulance came. The cops were there in seconds. And I jumped in a patrol car to go see if we could find these perps. And the adrenaline wore off, and I felt something weird in my stomach, and there was a little bit of blood on my jeans. So when I lifted my shirt, I noticed that I got stabbed too.
Man, your audio is going in and out. I mean,
yeah, there's a lot of wind noise coming into the.
Hold on, let me stand over here. Let me tell Eryka to mute her mic a second.
Wait, so I mean, do you guys want to disclose what state you're in now? Because this took place in DC, but you're not in DC now, right?
We're in the best state in the world. We're in Florida, and the best thing about Florida is that our governor just said that we're allowed to shoot. Sorry, I should say that.
Hold on. Mute your microphone a second.
Okay.
Okay. Perfect. Okay, so where did I leave you off?
Did the governor of Florida just say you're allowed to use force in self-defense?
And if either your property or somebody else's property is being looted, you could use. He authorized the use of force, which is pretty much an expansion of our stand your ground laws.
All right. It sounds like Florida is where people should be living. Just please don't accept any more Californians. They've already screwed up Colorado, Nevada, and Arizona.
Don't New York my Florida.
I know.
But is there any portion that you didn't hear me on when I was?
Oh yeah, your audio is so much better. No. I'm just gonna recap real quick, and I do have questions. Like when you said they walked past you, you said they said something. Like why would they say something? Like did they see your logos? Did they recognize you?
No,
guys?
no. So when we're in DC and we're in that capacity, we don't wear any like identifying markers. We know better. But there was somebody that was talking in our group that was talking about the election, how it was stolen, and they overheard that and they said something under their breath. I don't know what they said, but we were like, okay, we're not gonna tell them anything for it. And they proceeded to attack. After they passed us, they crossed the street and they proceeded to attack without warning. Without warning, no argument, they proceeded to attack an elderly white man that was walking down the street by himself.
And why would they like harass this elderly white man that was there? Did you see a reason? Can you think of a reason?
There was no words. I have no idea. It might be racially motivated, but I can't tell you with 100% certainty. But they literally just walked across the street, walked the sidewalk, and just surrounded this guy and then started beating the crap out of him. And they stabbed him twice.
Wow. So they stabbed, but they stabbed him after you guys intervened, or even before?
On our run over there, I think is when it happened. We didn't even know that knives were out. That's the whole thing. So we did the scuffle that happened between us. We didn't know that there was knives involved.
Okay, and how many of you in your crew? You guys had 3 guys, 1 girl?
No, we actually had at that very moment we had 4 men and 2 women. One was the one holding the camera, and then the other one was Bevelyn. She's a Christian activist.
Right. So speaking of camera, there was a video. I'm gonna add this link into the video description, guys, so that you have it. It is a 20-minute video. I have not seen this. I'm seeing it for the first time. We're not gonna watch the whole thing, but
then obviously the third one came in and he was stabbed. It was in the neck, one in the ear and the shoulder, and then Bevelyn multiple times in the back. She has that man was stabbed, and when we went to go defend them, we got the brunt of it. I was in the police cruiser driving around seeing if we could find these assailants, and then I started noticing that my stomach hurt a little bit, and that's when I lifted my shirt and I saw the wound. And I was down on the ground when we got back. I was down on the ground for a good amount of time.
And you guys have video of the actual incident as well.
Yeah, so the video is
later.
Yes, Alex Jones.
Alex Jones.
You know what's amazing?
We might get banned for that more than anything else.
But like, look at this chart right now that he's showing. That's crazy.
Where is the video here in this video, like your video of the incident?
You could if you search my name on Google and then you put gateway, or just, you know what, you could search my name on Google by
It is in
itself,
this video though.
and you'll find it.
If you guys can send me links of the video that you guys took of the incident,
I think that's in the video somewhere,
It's in the
but
video.
I will put it into the video
You
description.
could go to the Gateway store. Has it.
I'll put them in the video description because I have not seen it yet either. But you guys did record some of that incident, and
Yes.
Tell me
yes,
I just
so
forwarded
this is completely crazy. Like it's really getting out of control.
And I'm gonna tell you something. So the reason why things like this happen, right? And last time, I respect other people's views. I don't care if people disagree with me or heavily disagree. It doesn't matter to me. You know, I've never, me as a Cuban, I think the most offensive thing that you could do to me is wear like a Che Guevara shirt. And I've never even said anything to somebody wearing a Che Guevara shirt. But it's the rhetoric. So last time I was on your show, there was a gentleman on his show. I believe his name was Russell. Ronnie.
Right.
Well, I guess
Right.
just I rustled his jimmies a little bit, and he was already rustled before. But you see the level of anger and you see the level of like hate that some of these people have. I don't hate people, I hate ideologies. I hate authoritarian ideologies. I hate people that are prejudiced towards other people for anything that has to do with race, religion, or cultural background. But we saw there was anger, and if you just step a couple levels above that, then that's when it turns violent, because you hate somebody so much that you want to do physical damage to them, and that's where it's wrong, you know, because this incident was caught on video, but they've thrown glass bottles of urine, bags of feces have been spit on. They've thrown explosives at me, and we've reached a level that I didn't even think that we'd be able to see in this country, and it's ridiculous.
All right. Yeah. So here's the insane part. Again, I'm looking at our live audience messages. Tone, had no idea you were such a nutcase conspiracy theorist. I regret standing up for you when YouTube banned your ass. So I'm a conspiracy theorist just because
this is what we're talking about.
Just because the only person that actually interviewed you about this, besides myself now, was Alex Jones, about an actual event that happened. So just because Alex Jones was the only person to give you airtime on this issue, that now makes me a conspiracy theorist.
Yes, and that's it's the association thing, because I don't care to know. I don't know what your political views are. It doesn't matter to me. You're a person. But these people, like the person under there, like just having, there's no conspiracy theory. I fucking got stabbed. There's a woman that got stabbed.
A black lady. How many?
A woman of color, by their own standards. I hate using that word, but a woman of color got stabbed. They're not worried about her. That person that put that message in there, they didn't ask how she was. They didn't care. They just cared about shutting you down. So he regrets supporting you from being shut down from YouTube.
Lost audio.
Okay, how about now? You hear me?
Yep, back.
Okay, so that person doesn't care what her status is, what my status is. All they care is that people don't give us a voice, right? I don't care what your political views are, what the person's political views are that's putting that message out. You know, I still see them as a human being. They don't see me as a human being, and the fact that you put me on makes them think that you're enabling this in some ways, form, or fashion.
And like, how many black girls has Proud Boys ever stabbed? 0.
How many people has Proud Boys ever stabbed? Period.
But then
0.
It's all Antifa. And somehow this person in your chat room feels justified to be able to say that.
I understand wholeheartedly that we're not everybody's cup of tea. I get it. I understand it. I've dealt with it. But that we're like this violent bunch, or we're this racist bunch, is a bunch of it's crock.
And also too, a lot of other news outlets, sorry, I can't hear myself when I talk, but a lot of other news outlets covered the story. It's not just you and Alex Jones. Like, a lot of legitimate news outlets covered it.
Yeah, they did cover it. Newsweek covered it. So there's no conspiracy theory here.
Yeah, I don't think it's really that. Like the person that's saying that is basically a partisan, and they're saying, and they're very anti-free speech at this point, where if you give somebody a platform to say anything, and it could be something very reasonable, like what you're saying. It's not even like, okay, you're giving them a platform to say they hate blah 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 or whatever. That's not it. It's basically telling your side of the story. Apparently, that's against their narrative, and therefore it's hate speech of some kind. And that's what happens to speech codes, is that, you know, at some point everything becomes hate speech that does not toe the party line. And this is why freedom of speech is such a critical part of our democracy, and why it's so dangerous to just be like, well, you should just deplatform them. And that's
yeah, like imagine like those, I'm guessing you guys have a big crypto community following, right?
Yeah.
So like imagine
I'd like to think so.
Yeah, so imagine if it was somebody coming in here and like pushing more regulation on cryptocurrencies, which I don't know how the hell they'll do, but like it's just a different opinion. You know what I'm saying? It's a completely different world. There's no such thing as hate speech. Let's start by there. There's no such thing as hate speech. That's a made up word. There's just speech you disagree with or you don't like. There's speech that you hate, but there's no such thing as hate speech. It's not a thing. Okay? There's no violence in speech, because I've heard that before. They've said that I'm violent through my speech. And I've never said anything. You can't go back on my like old tweets or on my old Facebook account and be like, oh, look what he said. Because I've never said those things. It just doesn't exist.
Can you make yours? Okay, and also too, I just want to say that on the topic of censorship, the reason why Eryka and I even know each other is because he got kicked off of like 60 payment processors and came into the Bitcoin Center. And so it's like when you silence people, they have to find other means. And so I just think that's interesting because like when you see the people who are censored the most on social media, it's conservatives, and now it's people in crypto.
They should just admit. They should just admit that they love licking the boot of big banks. They love licking the boot of big tech. They love licking the boots of major corporations, because that's exactly what they're doing. You know, when they push for YouTube to censor you, right? When they push for YouTube to censor you, they're basically licking the big corporate boot, which should be what the crypto community, and again, I just got into the crypto community. I don't know much about it, but I do know that you guys like decentralized crap, right? You guys like for nobody to
DLive.
What?
DLive is like the only platform that allows you to stream on there.
Yeah. So to tell somebody that they should be banned, or to tell somebody like those people don't tell me that you're for crypto. You're just in it. You don't understand it. You don't, because even with my basic understanding, I understand that people don't like the centralized portion of it, the big corporate part of the banking industry. So to them, they're just I don't understand them. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm okay to
they're
kick
being
them out of
inconsistent.
the community.
Yeah, they're clearly being inconsistent on that. I don't really understand people that think deplatforming will do anything. What are you afraid of? Like you don't have to go listen to it. It's really you wanting to control other people's access to that person's products. And that's why are you afraid of that? If it's worse, then people reject it. If you think that people are so stupid to just automatically like agree with whatever they listen to, then well that's kind of your problem. That's your view of humanity, and that's a really sad way to view people.
Yeah, definitely. If you check out his store, and I would suggest everyone go there, buy some gear, support the Proud Boys. It's 1776.shop, right? 1776. What Alex Jones says all the time is like the only answer to 1984 is 1776.
Where's the store?
1776.shop is what they said.
Oh, like the website. Okay.
Yeah, the website. And you'll see all he does is sell literally t-shirts and hats, but he's been banned from 60 different payment processors. Like, it doesn't make any sense because, for one, it's not even that these like banks or payment processors want to kick him off. What happens is that the left, at Antifa, they have these manuals on how to get people in the Proud Boys delisted. So him and his people in general, yeah. It's like him and all his boys have been kicked off so many different platforms, but what they'll do is they'll call these payment processors and they'll go into the CSS code of the website, they'll figure out who the payment processor is, and they will call them nonstop. I mean, I even have payment processors who want to help him, and I've introduced him to them, and they're just like, sorry, we can't help you because of the risk. And how is that possible? Like, in this modern banking system, it's not okay that these people get to decide who gets to participate. And I mean, pull up his shop tone. It's literally just t-shirts, bullhorns, stickers, like super simple stuff.
So it's interesting that they're going after you of all people instead of like bigger fish. I guess they have like a major beef with you or something. But this is the problem with centralized payment processors. you should set up your own BTC Pay server. Then you wouldn't have any of this problem.
I actually do. I am currently in the process of setting it up. I was supposed to do it last night, but there is BTC. Like if you add something to the card at the end, you'll see the BTC Pay server at that point. But it's not just payment processors. I don't know if Eryka didn't mention this, but Chase Bank closed my bank account because of my political views. So it goes beyond it. Like I have a bank that knocked me off the platform. So you know what? I can't wait until cryptocurrencies become the norm in the world, because then I don't have to deal with any of this.
They're getting there. Look, I'm sorry, guys. I'm so confused. What is it about your political views that got you banned from Chase? Well, like just tell us. Like, I'm willing to take the chance of this channel being completely shut down and my Chase bank account being removed as well. Like, because I want to know, and I know a lot of people in my audience don't want my channel to go down again. But like, I want to know.
Keep scrolling though. If you don't want it to go down, you got to scroll past that T-shirt.
I'm looking at your site, and no, I really don't mind. I have backups in place, and I really don't mind. Like, I'm looking at your site. I don't understand what's wrong with this. And so what is it about your political views that are rubbing people the wrong way? Because I can tell you, because I haven't said this yet, I'm going to stop the website so we can go back to our normal screen share. Look, my biggest problem with the BLM movement, my biggest problem is that every time that there's an investigation at the leaders of the BLM movement, like the people at the actual offices, they all have Marxist ties and education. And that is scaring the shit out of me.
Of course.
Especially as a former immigrant from Soviet Russia.
Yeah. And it should scare you because it's authoritarian in nature. Even like if there was like, I'd be just as afraid if there was like a fascist creep coming into the country. But the truth is that there's not. We have a socialist communist creep that's coming into this country right now. That is a problem. A message that I resonate with on the BLM side is their original message: police brutality. You got me? Nobody's for police brutality. It doesn't exist. I hate bad cops, right? I don't fly that thin blue line flag. You know, if people want to do that, I don't, right? But at the same time, like when they riot and they shoot people on the streets, like they did to one of our friends, or they stab me, right? How does that honor George Floyd? How does that honor Breonna Taylor? It doesn't. It doesn't do anything for it except make people pull away from it. And you asked me, like, what is it about my views that gets me banned on like platforms? And I wish I had an answer to give you, because I don't, okay? I've rejected any forms of racism. I've rejected any forms of violence. I've rejected all of this. And it's not like I practice it. There's no media face to me. Like I live it in my everyday life. I live it. I don't care for authoritarian things. I fight against it. I put events together. I put boots on the ground. What's scary about me? Maybe the fact that I do that. Maybe the fact that we enact change. Maybe the fact that we put together events that are large in scale. We're going to see that in DC. We're going to see that in DC on Saturday. Whether you agree with it or not, our numbers are going to be huge. Florida, for example, Florida wasn't a battleground state this year. I'm sorry to say it. Florida was a complete blowout. And you know why Florida was a blowout? Because people got on the streets. They got off their phones. We put people on the streets. We got people to the voting booth. And it was a model to follow throughout the rest of the country. And that is scarier than anything that I could say that would be racist in nature. Like these actual white supremacists and stuff like that, they have no power. They have no power. You know why? Because they'll say, hey, I hate N-words on their Facebook feed, but they won't act on anything like that. So they're not scary. There's people's boogeyman. You know what's scarier? When I say that I'm going to Portland, after Portland being burned down for 4 months, right, by BLM and Antifa, the scary part is that when I announce I'm going to go, and basically all we did was have a barbecue, is that they declared a state of emergency. they had the National Guard on standby for my presence and my guy's presence to go to a freaking barbecue.
And how
That's
many?
all we did.
How many of you?
We put 1,500 guys together on the ground.
Wow, that's impressive. Actually, you can get 50.
Yeah, it's super impressive. But given the fact that they've been marching 3,000 deep in the streets of Portland, throwing Molotov cocktails at police officers and destroying buildings and shooting people on the streets, and the National Guard was never called. But here we go. Little old me gets to Portland, and they have to declare a state of emergency and activate every police precinct, every police body that they have in the area and the surrounding counties, just for me to show up. And that's scarier than anything I could say on the internet.
Well, it's because
I don't need social
you're
media.
their
I'm dope
enemy.
in real life.
That's you have the unfortunate designation of being an enemy of the left, and that's your real sin. It's not any of these other things. It's that you're their enemy. That's it. And this is what's kind of scary about political discourse. It's not about your rights anymore. It's about whether you're their enemy or not. And if you're their enemy, I mean, if you're their friend, you can get away with anything. If you're their enemy, then you can't get away with anything. Or you can be doing everything right, and they'll still figure out a way to get to you. So that's the unfortunate reality.
I mean, even so, I saw today in the Daily Mail that the BLM leaders wrote a letter to Kamala and Joe Biden saying, we want something back for our vote. So it doesn't even matter if you're on their side. It really doesn't.
Really?
Yeah, I'll have to send you the link so you can pull it up. I'll send it to you right now.
They're already expecting kickbacks for their...
Yeah, I mean, reparations, right? That's what they want.
Yeah. Wow.
Oh, just wait.
We should.
Like I said, I think the best thing that can happen if you're a Trump supporter is Biden winning with some questions here, because then you're going to have a big blowback in the midterms, and then like the next election will be yours. So I
agree. That's the energy that we need coming into these new elections.
Guys, I'm sorry. Go on. Sorry, my bad.
They didn't board up. The funniest part about this whole BLM thing is, I don't know if I told you last time, but like DC was boarded up completely. And there was this one shop that had like all these BLM signs on it, right? And they're pro BLM stuff, and we welcome people of all color, blah, blah, blah. And they were boarded up. It's like no amount of virtue signaling is going to save you. There's no amount of capitulation that's going to save you from this mob that doesn't care whether you support them or not. They just want destruction. They want this resistance. But the truth is, like you said, if Biden, there's a difference. I think resistance is I'm not going to use a bad word here, but resistance is for peace, right? Revolting is where a peaceful revolt is where you're going to see Trump supporters shine if Biden takes his presidency.
All right. Hey, I really don't want to keep you guys. I know you have a long drive still ahead of you. Man, I don't want to dox you, so maybe you can answer me through messages.
We're in Central Florida.
Are you going to be in Florida in December?
Maybe. I move around a lot. So, you're coming? You're coming?
Florida, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
He's coming to my party. We're throwing a party, guys, for Art Basel.
Be because I plan to be there. It's not going to be there for like a day. I plan to be in Florida. I probably shouldn't be doxing myself where the hell I'm going to be, but I plan to be in Florida for at least a week to 2 weeks, maybe 10 days ish. So hopefully our paths will cross, because I'm
okay, cool.
Looking forward to an in-person chat to really see what it is you guys really do. And I do have screen share here. You guys have a Bitcoin donation address as well. Can you just say what the donation address is for? Since I put it on the screen, I rarely do this. I don't normally put up any donations because I don't trust.
Zoom in, Tone.
What's up?
I said zoom into the donation address, guys.
No, that's it. It's good enough that you can see it.
All right, fine.
Yeah. Okay. So we're completely, besides Bitcoin, there is absolutely no way that you could donate to Proud Boys. we don't want it. We don't want as a organization as a whole. We don't want it. Bitcoin's a little bit better for us, but for the most part, like I said, we're all self-funded. I travel. I've been to probably about 15 states in the past like 4 weeks. I've traveled. I've done some campaigning, some media and stuff like that, and that's all out of my pocket. So if anybody can help out, that would be amazing. But again, it doesn't matter how broke we are, how rich we are, because we're, by Biden standard, we're called the poor boys, and that's pretty accurate. That's more accurate than being a white supremacist. But we don't care. We're not going to stop. Doesn't matter how much people hate us. Doesn't matter how many news stories you write. It doesn't matter what we do. We're never going to quit. I've been doing this for 18 years, and I don't plan on quitting anytime soon.
All right, I'll throw the donation address into the video description as well. And just tell us about this.
I'm
The
sorry.
March for 45.
Oh, you can see it. The March
I think you could.
45.
Oh well. Okay, so March for 45. There's a whole bunch of groups that are coming to DC. We're converging on DC, and basically we're going to be marching for this Stop the Steal campaign. Whether people think it's fraudulent or not, it is our First Amendment right to go ahead and do so and fight this. I believe the court system has to get involved at this point. This race is still too close to call. We're seeing news outlets pull uncalling states right now. And I think the people deserve, I think no matter what side you're on, you should be asking for transparency in our government. So we're going to be pushing for that in DC, and I think it's going to be a great event. I think it's going to be a huge event. A lot of people showing up.
So
There's actually
there's
actually even a caravan that left. Alex Jones is riding in a caravan right now with a bunch of people that they left Austin. They went to Houston. They went to Tallahassee last night. They're going up to Atlanta, and then they're going up to DC. So, I mean, I expect a lot of people there, and everybody is going to be. Where are they convening at noon at the? Where are they convening at noon?
Freedom Plaza.
Freedom Plaza. So it's just going to be a huge march to show support for Trump.
All right, that's actually interesting. I actually lived there for several years, so I'm pretty familiar with that city of Florida. And hey, so since this show does pride on integrity, and for the record, I've known Eryka for quite a while. For the record, I have not done my research on the chairman of the Proud Boys. And that is why I do have to address a comment in the live stream, something about a 2013 issue with stolen medical devices. I have to ask, otherwise.
It wasn't really, the charge didn't come from the stolen medical devices as much as it came from, I was rebranding and relabeling an FDA device. And it's actually, I went to prison for it. I went to prison for 10 months. I had the crappiest prison story you could ever, like everybody's asking, when you're in prison, everybody asks you, oh, why are you in here? And they're like, oh yeah, I cut some guy up or something. They asked me, hey, why are you in here? I'm like, I rebranded and relabeled an FDA device. But yes, I'm a person that has screwed up many times in my past. So I don't even know why that comes up. I'm actually really big on closing private prisons. I think they're a travesty to the American way. I think we have too much of the size of our prison population as opposed to like our citizens is way too high. It's one of the highest in the world right now. And yeah, I take it. I don't hide that. The reason why he knows it is because I talk about it myself. I don't hide who I was. I used to steal cars when I was a kid. Okay, I used to boost cars when I was a kid. So yes, guilty as charged for rebranding and relabeling an FDA device. I'll take it.
All right. No.
And also, I just hold on. I just do want to say though, like victimless crimes. Why is it that there are so many useful men in society that are stuck in jail because of victimless crimes? Like, who even prosecuted you for that? You know, it was people who actually. I feel like a lot of people benefited from that because he was selling like diabetic chest strips for way cheaper than the FDA would sell them to you. So people actually benefited off of that because the problem is like big pharma if I have to point at issues in the world that create the issues that we have today, the first one obviously is the banking system, because counterfeit money running around is the only thing that funds these things. But the second thing really is big pharma. I mean, if you look at, you know, like it's like 50% of the commercials on TV are pharmaceutical companies. And so the news wouldn't even be able to operate the way that they do if there wasn't these pharmaceutical companies that are running everything. And then, I mean, just on an individual level, our bodies were made to heal themselves. Like, there's a reason why humans have been existing for hundreds of thousands of years without Western medicine in existence. And now all of a sudden it's like everybody wants to treat the symptoms. These doctors pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to go to school to teach you how to take a pill instead of changing your life habits to make your life better. So definitely so many issues with that. And whoever brought that up in the chat, you're not cool. You're not my friend.
Well, no, it's
asking the question, I think it's fine. If they're saying this is a bad person because X, Y, Z, I mean, that's their judgment to make. But you know,
I stand in front of the judge, like I stand in front of you guys. I accepted my guilt. You know, I did something wrong.
Right?
No. I know you're not.
We're perfectly okay with this. I'm happy to have you on the show again. But not asking something that I just saw in the chat would also not be accurate. But I would love if Eryka, or if I saw, since I'm not connected to you directly yet, Eryka, if you could send me like an article, like the best article you got on that, and I can add that to the video description as well. At least it will probably help, because when people start Googling, they're just gonna not really read into the stories. They're gonna only see the headlines. So I would like to put an article into the video description from that you actually want people to read about it. That would be a little more accurate on the entire situation. But other than that, hey, looking forward to hanging out with you guys when I get to Miami. Happy to have you on again. We may be covering a little more politics these days on their own independent shows. I got to get my graphic designer on this. Just like we were covering the crypto fork wars. So we're going to be covering this. I don't want to keep you guys, because I know you have a long drive ahead of you. Maybe follow up in about maybe next week for an update on what's going on.
Awesome. Would love to be on.
I'm going to be looking at the chat rooms. I'm going to be checking all the chat rooms. So.
All right.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate you.
Awesome. Hey, thanks for coming on. Thanks for informing us what happened the night after you guys were on the stream in the election. Hey, keep doing what you're doing, man. Don't let, if it's peaceful, don't let anybody, you know, force you to stop, and it doesn't look like you are.
Amen. Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.
All right. That went well.
Yeah, I think so. Kind of a new ground for us, Tone. We're not usually political commentators.
We're not.
We're Bitcoin trolls on Twitter, and somehow we're getting interviews with like the chairman of the private. I don't know how this happened, but I guess we're in the game now.
Well, like I still don't really know how big they're going to, like, I'm sure he's a big famous guy based on what he says. Like, if he can get 1,500 people
Joe Biden said something about him at the debates.
Like, I am so, those that know me for a while, I'm so not like starstruck. It's like, to me, you're just another person. Like, I treat people like people, whether it's no different. Like, I've been in a room with Ron Paul. You know, I don't know if Gary Johnson's a big deal or not, but like, I treat people like people. I don't know. Like, I'm treating him like another person. Like, I have no idea how famous he is. The same thing with Cody Wilson. You know, I've had Cody Wilson on this show. I know he's got his run-in with the law that was had his own adventure, but these are all libertarian celebrities, to be fair. And if you're not libertarian, you probably wouldn't even know who these people are. But regardless,
We are now. We need to like name the show or something. It's,
oh God, the last thing I use another show. So we are gonna start making some thumbnails. We're gonna have some stuff. Look, I would love to have him on like every now and then to see what the hell is going on. We may need.
I'm sure there are other people that we can get on too that would be interesting from a political perspective. So
yeah, that is true. But man, the last thing I need is another show. We got to bring the crypto news show back. Let's bring that back. What's today? Today's Wednesday. Maybe we can try and do it on Friday.
Maybe. That would be fun. We got a lot to talk about. And remember, the Bcash fork is happening, I think, on Sunday.
Oh, crap. Okay, so then we got to deal with that. All right. So I'm going to put a bunch of these links in the video description right after this video ends. Just a peek at the price of Bitcoin, guys. We are pulling back. I was bullish this morning from the perspective of this triangle is breaking out. And we're pulling back a little bit, but we're still higher than we were this morning when I was streaming.
What is that? $1,700 upside?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's 1,200 upside into 17,000.
Okay.
I am looking at upside into 17,000 right now. The daily chart is breaking out, and the weekly chart still has room. We still have about 2 weeks to go before an MRI top on a weekly. At this point, I would love it to line up. At this point, I am bullish, and I would like it to be bullish, and it sets us up for a perfect top in the $17,000 to $18,000 range sometime in the next 2 weeks. That would be a perfect top based on the weekly scale. Off that top, I think I don't know how big the pullback will be, but I don't see the pullback being any worse than down to 12,000. I know it sounds insane to go from 17,000 to 12,000, which is a $5,000 drop per Bitcoin, but in reality, it's a drop to the prices we were in the summer. So it's not the end of the world. And if we do top in that $17,000 to $18,000 range, and we do pull back to 12,000, oh boy, 20 to 30,000, here we come in the first half of 2021. I think that's going to be the catalyst that really gives us a stable break of the all-time highs.
That would be amazing. And I think we're all looking forward to that because honestly, I've got a little bit of election fatigue already. So yeah.
Yeah, that would be nice to talk about the new all-time high. The mempool has completely cleared up, which seemed like it would never happen about a week ago. But here we are. So no panic into lightning channels yet. We can still wait.
Yeah, and it looks like they inverted the color scheme so that you can, like the lowest value transactions are now at the bottom instead of the top, which is interesting. It's a new way of doing things. I'll have to update my mempool.space server.
All right. Other than that, we'll put all the links in the video description. I don't know. I may or may not put, I'll probably put the videos that we played here and stuff. Jimmy, anything else to add?
No. Yeah.
We can save the Ethereum insanity for Friday.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, between moving to 2.0 and the Infura, well, the hard fork thing that they didn't disclose, but still ended up biting them. Yeah. I keep. Why anyone like invests in Ethereum despite all that, I have no idea. But yeah, it is what it is.
All right. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching. This show ran 2 hours. So I think that's enough. Jimmy, thanks for taking the time. And tomorrow, probably just a price show, but we'll try to pull off a new show for Friday. Too many stories over the last few weeks. Hey guys, thank you all for watching and see you all on the next one.